on a daily basis.
Yeah, no,
it has to be a lot.
Fuck, probably a lot.
Anyway,
that's video games now.
Yes. So Phil Spencer had made some comments at that spring showcase that we were at for a little bit.
Yeah.
That just kind of came to light more.
Well, I think it's
after last week's podcast, or how did
it's that we showed up in the afternoon.
Well, yeah, we were not there for his.
So we didn't actually see the speech, but like I had talked to someone there just about kind of I asked about some of the stuff around the Windows 10 store,
right?
And
so that seemed to be the thing that the people we talked to were focusing on. Was
that's the stuff that I was focusing on because I knew about it going in. So
yeah.
Those are the questions that I kind of asked, and yeah, but there was also the larger topic of the Xbox platform, and some of that was reflected in. Forza coming to the PC and Quantum Break come to the PC. So yeah, we talked about all that stuff last week, but the little bit there's a little bit more to it is when they're talking about the Xbox One as a platform and unifying these things and the potential for upgrading Xbox One is the specific thing here. We should probably find that quote.
I've got the quote here.
Yeah,
if you would like me to read it,
I would.
Here's the Phil Spencer quote. On PC and mobile, you get a continuous innovation that you rarely see on console. Consoles lock the hardware and the software platforms together at the beginning of the generation. Then you ride the generation out for 7 or so years while other ecosystems are getting better, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
Very true. Sure.
Absolutely.
And he used the word decoupling, basically saying they're decoupling the Xbox One, like the software platform, from the hardware that exists right now.
Yeah, which opens up a lot of potential for them to create additional products with the Xbox brand on them.
Yes.
If that's an upgrade, if that's an Xbox 1.1.
Yes.
Or if that's a PC that just plays all the Xbox One games.
Yeah.
The phrase that's an Xbox One blaster that you put in there.
Just a card, used to PCI Express card.
Yeah.
The phrase he gave to
all
Polygon,
the best consoles have PCI Express cards in them.
Yes. Absolutely.
Go on.
The phrase that he gave to Polygon when they sought comment was, quote, capability of hardware iteration.
Yeah.
That's what they are committed to bringing to the Xbox platform.
Yeah, and I think, he talked about, the idea of like typical iteration on a platform is, you're making it smaller, you're making it more efficiently, you're getting some cost savings out of it, but the end user benefit is usually
the capabilities are identical across the generation.
And, they're in this interesting position where they control the PC market, or they control Windows anyway. So they have a lot of power in the PC market. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of interest there. And their platform's not doing that great. Mm-hmm. Their platform's not selling that well. It's also it's also not as powerful as its main competitor.
Yeah. Although, those differences remain like
there. It's totally, it's not a super meaningful thing. But, it's one of the things where it's like Killer Instinct, for example. That'll come to PC at the end of this month, and you'll be able to run it at all these beautiful resolutions and all this other stuff. The Xbox One version runs at 900p.
Or I guess the reason I bring that up is that, like, if all they were to get out of this is to be able to come back to market and say, hey, now our box is more powerful than Sony's, that's not going to cut it.
That's not enough. It would have to be above and beyond by quite a bit to be, to sell that to an audience and say, like, hey, here's why you should buy another Xbox.
Right.
But also, what is the message to developers there? Like, how does their path change? And so I think there's a lot of dust around this that has not settled in terms of like how far they go.
Absolutely.
Because this could end theoretically with them figuring out a way to, much like they've built a wrapper to run Xbox 360 games on an Xbox One, there is a potential that they could figure out a way to get Xbox One games running on a PC in some way.
Yeah,
that's me intrigued. Yeah, I'm totally interested in this. Obviously, the old hardware is not going to be.
But also at the same time,
or is it? You could be designing the same games, just like they're going to be at a higher resolution and a better frame rate on this better box.
Then developers have to account for 2 SKUs of console, and then it becomes like phones at that point.
Yeah, and that's fragmenting that is what kind of scares me a little bit.
And who
or PCs.
Yeah,
or PC. Yeah, exactly. Well, once you get into PC, like the requirements are just like what you're doing to test for the different configurations, like it's exponentially higher than a closed platform like a phone would be, or a console.
And on PC you have things like middleware taking care of a lot of that stuff, which hopefully Microsoft is providing with.
They're all. That's the thing, though. It's unified
system.
Yeah, so it's all DirectX 12. You know, it's you'll have to do work. And, you know, I don't think it's just simple as like save as Xbox One,
right?
Export. You know, it's not quite that. But they're trying to create efficiencies. So some of this is some of it. That is pretty much their pitch for apps when it comes to the Windows 10 Store and Xbox One apps, which they still haven't done that yet. But that is part of the plan. Like the core of the Xbox One is the Windows 10 core now. The eventual plan was to have it so that there is some unity across the app stores themselves. And so in some cases, you may have apps that wouldn't run well in the Xbox One environment because they're built for a mouse or they're built for a PC monitor and you to be right there, and the text might not look good. But the idea is that it's a minimal amount of effort for you to spit out an Xbox One like first version of that app, or a Windows Phone version of that app as well, because Windows 10 runs there as well. And so that's all fine and good for apps. For games, it gets weird. And for games, it's gotten weird. Mm-hmm. And right now they're handling it as this kind of this double approach. Like, you know, Quantum Break is like, you know, hey, you can get the PC version or you can get the Xbox version. And hey, if you get the Xbox version, we'll throw in the PC version for free. But I don't know exactly how much they're benefiting from the kind of that architecture or that unified platform. Mm-hmm. Stuff there. We'd have to talk to Remedy about that. I don't know. And third parties aren't necessarily going to like buy into this right out of the gate because they sell their own PC versions on Origin and Uplay and Steam and GOG and all these other places that are not the Windows 10 store.
So that I didn't dig into this with Tomb Raider, but does that mean that there are two different versions of Tomb Raider for sale?
Yes.
Like the version on Steam is not subject to all these restrictions that this Windows 10 Store version
So
is.
the apps coming out of the Windows 10 Store, because they're not, you know, you can't really get at the executable.
Right.
It's a different type of package. And so as a result of that, it's a little different. So a lot of and that's the thing that that I asked them about. I said, hey, this is an issue with people that want to mod games, with people that want to, that are used to owning PC games in a certain way and being able to tinker with them as they see fit. This is not that. And they said, we know. We're aware and we intend to work on it. And I suspect they'll get where they need to get with that stuff.
Yeah.
But the larger issue is when they decouple hardware and software, all bets are off with everything. And they can build the pipelines as they see fit, and it could be really exciting in the long run. But in the short run, you've got that case of like, okay, do you introduce a more powerful Xbox console at E3 now? Yeah. Do you start making Steam boxes that run the Xbox One library in some weird way? Do you even care about the existing Xbox One library? Or is this go forward path of like Quantum Break just coming to the PC as well? Is that how you do it?
I'm kind of hoping it's not the right word, but assuming that if you can if you can put Xbox One games on the PC, like who is developing Xbox One games and is thinking, finally, an easy way to put these on our PC?
No one. Yeah, you're totally right.
But people developing PC games might go, well, I mean, we could do a little of this weird Microsoft stuff and then be able to play it on an Xbox.
Yeah. So, yes, that is absolutely a potential benefit there. But the self-publishing programs, the ID at Xbox stuff has already been pretty successful in terms of just like getting games on that platform that you wouldn't have thought of. The same way on PS4 has been the same way, of getting games onto those platforms that you wouldn't even think of as a console game in the previous generation. So like that stuff's already kind of happening regardless. So if this makes it easier for more developers and that sort of thing, that could be cool.
I haven't really heard them say anything to that effect, though. Not that I've been watching closely, but
yeah. But I think that like all these benefits are there are all of these potential benefits do exist. It's just a matter of like how far do they go and what does it really mean? And for existing Xbox One owners, really, because they will now always be the least powerful platform in this chain,
right? Like it seems like there's a lot of potential to alienate people who just bought an Xbox One 6 months or a year ago and are already being shown like, hey, here's a better one. You should buy that now.
Yeah,
it's better.
That's people have grown to accept that sort of way of life when it comes to phones, but consoles, as they said, it's very much a 7-year thing or 5-year thing.
There's very much an expectation that, hey, if I buy this box, assuming it doesn't break, I am good for the duration of this generation to play whatever you guys put out.
And there was a lot of talk last time around of Xbox 360 of them taking a half step there.
Yeah.
And,
yes, that rumor did go around. For sure.
They started. It seemed like they started maybe doing the work of like, hey, could we put out a more powerful Xbox 360? What would that mean?
Yeah.
Is there a way to get that to existing Xbox 360 owners without them having to go buy a whole new box?
It's so fucking crazy, dude. Like, if this actually happens, I feel like it's like nothing short of the biggest change to come to the console business model, kind of ever.
Right.
Like,
and
what does that force Sony to do in response, Like,
nothing right now.
Well,
like short term.
Yeah, I mean, okay, obviously.
Long term, I mean, but long term, the viability of consoles isn't necessarily.
I guess, yeah.
Like
maybe
sewn up.
Maybe this is just something that had to happen at some point by necessity, and somebody had to take the first step because now every other hardware platform works in the opposite way, which is that it iterates constantly.
But also, like I don't like for that to all happen, you have to count on Microsoft to nail it and get every aspect of this right, and I just don't think they will. I think that there's too many opportunities for them to, like make calls that will kind of screw over like loyal consumers. That purchased an Xbox. Like, when I look at this stuff, the thing I see first and foremost would be an Xbox branded Steam Link style of thing.
Sure.
Of like, hey, like get your PC games onto your TV this way through the power of the Xbox Link or whatever you got, and find a way to run more and more of those Xbox One games as with the PC as the powerhouse, with this other box getting it to your TV. I think that makes a little more sense right now, like early days, but. It's not the next year will be like for Xbox will be tumultuous. It was going to be anyway because the console's just not moving.
Yeah.
Even when we have our first party conversations and look at like Halo and Gears as these kind of titans of development, like they're not doing it the same way they used to either. We'll see how Gears the new Gears does. That's obviously still in development, but like you don't get the impression that like Halo's burning up the charts. Because it requires people to buy an Xbox One, which they're just not doing.
Yeah.
And those games aren't driving people to the platform the same way that they used to. So,
imagine though, like the Xbox 1.1 comes out and it looks better than the PS4 and whatever, and you can play a bunch of PC games. I mean, this is longer down the line, but like people who don't have PCs and are coming to that maybe don't have either console, that starts to look kind of attractive.
Oh yeah,
or as soon, like I mean this is all conjecture, but like the PS4 starts to look long in the tooth, and well, I mean you could just get this one right now, and those things look great.
That's what I meant about making Sony respond. Like at a certain point, all of a sudden Sony has the inferior box on the market if this works out the way Microsoft acts like it might.
But they've also got the install base. By that point, developers would be developing for the PS4 first, the way they are now. In a lot of cases.
Right. Maybe people just don't really care.
And so, that. Like, if that stuff is kind of set, then what developer is going to go out there and go like, well, we definitely, but unless it's easy, and if the architectures are such that it is easy to take advantage of this extra power, which, we see in PC ports all the time now.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's a different story. But
I found it like as things like Digital Foundry have gotten more popular, I always find it interesting when they do their analysis and say like, okay, well, the PS4 version of this is the equivalent to medium settings on the PC version.
Yeah, right.
So in those terms, like maybe this new Xbox runs everything on high effectively on average.
Maybe. Or maybe it runs it on medium because sometimes the Xbox One version can't achieve that. It's one of those things where the message coming out of this continues to be, if you truly care about gaming and visuals and all this other stuff, the right answer is still to get a PC. And it's, now it's this like tacit admission on Microsoft's part that like, that maybe that's the way to go. Instead, like, especially if all their games end up coming to all places, which I don't know how you actually pull that off. I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you how easy it would be to get Xbox One games in their current state running on a PC without assistance from the people who developed those games.
Oh, I think that's probably crucial.
Yeah.
There's still some basic differences with unified memory and stuff.
Right. But also, like, could they even legally do that? What would EA think about?
Oh, if they were to do it without asking or whatever? Yeah.
Like,
well, even with the backwards compatibility,
exactly.
They're having to go get permission.
That same conversation where it's like, no, we sell a PC version on the store that we own.
Right.
The last thing we want is a confusing, competing, like not as good version being sold in the Windows 10 store.
Right.
So no. So does that dump a bunch of customer support on the third parties' laps because they're like, wait, how come when I put this Xbox One disc in, it doesn't work?
Right.
But Halo 5 does, or like there's, which who knows if they even go that way. This to me, this seems like a go forward thing, with Quantum Break, and and the other thing around Forza was, they're putting out Apex, and that's their big kind of like, hey, let's build the tech and do it at 4K and all this other stuff. And then the kind of other quote coming out of Dan Greenwald was like, all future Forza games will, of course, come to the PC. So at least on the first party end, they're like, hey, fuck it. We're going to put the games where people are because they're not on the Xbox One.
You think Gears 4 comes out on PC this year?
Absolutely.
Day and date?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I don't see why, like if they're committing to it with stuff like Quantum Break that they're publishing, they're not even developing that. They put Gears out last week for $30.
Yeah.
That's that
Gears
Ultimate Edition thing that they put out on Xbox One already.
Yeah.
But I don't see them looking too much further back. Like, I bet I would not be shocked if Halo 5 was never on the PC, but Halo 6 was day one.
Sure.
Unless that work is incredibly easy to do, then at some point you're like, well, let's just bring the entire catalog over. And then we've got this weird thing of like, okay, well, does the Xbox 360 catalog then carry over with that? Are you doing that work too? How far do we go? And I'm sure the question, the answers to those questions are like probably right now limited by how much time and money they have to put into this stuff. And I'm sure they would like to do all of it everywhere forever. But in terms of just like what's actually realistic short term, the only short term thing I feel like reasonably confident about right now is that maybe you shouldn't buy an Xbox One right now.
Yes, seriously.
With everything they just said.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Holy shit. That almost makes it feel like they have to announce something more concrete at E3 because you've already you've already pulled the rug out from under your own hardware sales with this. Like, yeah.
You kind of have to say
you've got to clarify what this means soon.
And put out a box this Christmas or something, right? Right? But is that even? Will anyone care? Will anyone want it? Like,
I have no idea. No idea.
Because like the power is like,
they're like just this is a kind of a random thought, but like another vector for them is that 4K TVs are actually really starting to sell. It seems like, and like they just launched the 4K Blu-ray format.
Oh, right,
like players just became available in the last.
I want to say that the PS4 is firmware upgradable to at least support.
I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I don't think it can play back 4K Blu-rays. I'm pretty sure both consoles are not currently capable of that.
So I thought it was something where like specifically for the Blu-rays, like games never, but
maybe it can actually 30 hertz do 4K. I'm not
just
sure.
Like a bandwidth.
I think it's that.
Huh.
Yeah, I think it's a HDMI port on that thing kind of situation. I might be wrong, but like that could be another way for them to like Trojan horse it into the house. If you're like, well, this one will play the new 4K Blu-rays for that 4K TV you bought.
There might be a market for the person who doesn't have a PC, doesn't want a PC, wants to play games on their TV, and the PlayStation 4 is old. But there's Xbox 1.1. That's kind of the only person I see engaging with this.
Like, what do you say to the people who have bought Xbox Ones over the past 2 years?
You say, hey,
do you give them a path to upgrade to the new one?
Man, I think that would be the right move, is to give them a very comfortable path to upgrade.
Right.
Like, hey, send us your Xbox One and $50, and
I would have said like 200 or something. In terms of what I believe they would do.
Like,
I'm saying in terms of what they would do, not what they should do.
Like if you're spending $200, like you might as well just fucking
or maybe 100. Like I can't.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's fucking real costly if they're packing that thing full of newer hardware.
But I think if they want
practically giving it away,
if this is them trying to dig themselves out of the situation they're in, then they need to take the hit.
Assuming they can.
Yeah, right.
Assuming that group has the budget
yeah.
to do that sort of thing.
But they need to...
And then make it up on components later on.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So
or software.
You know, can they win back hearts and minds? Will the next Xbox hardware be user accessible in a more meaningful way?
Right.
So you can go like, well, I'm going to rip the video card out of this thing and put in something else.
If that's the route they're going, they have to build the new one with upgradability in mind, right?
Phones aren't.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
you know, like when a phone reaches its end of life, I mean, apps stop working on them.
Yeah,
there are certain, you go back 2 generations of iPhone, you've got games that straight up don't run.
Yeah, but Apple set those expectations right off the bat. Yeah. Even the first iPhone only lasted a year or whatever.
You're right.
So people are just going to be more resistant to that with consoles.
But
they've never been used to it.
But maybe it's one of those things where they have to take the hit, and then the long term on the other end is once they've kind of made their case and all that other stuff is maybe it works for them. But I don't know, man. I think that's
so weird.
The ability to like play these console games on a PC, I think that's good. I think that's put the games where the power is, put the games where the people are.
Assuming they iron out all those unfortunate restrictions.
So the other part of the problem is like the people are not in the Windows 10 store.
Yeah.
And so Tim Sweeney wrote his big open letter about his concerns around the Windows 10 store, his fears around that thing being a potential problem for all developers down the line because of some of those restrictions and Microsoft kind of owning that sort of stuff and all that sort of stuff. Personally, he's right, but Steam is so big that it's hard to imagine it being toppled.
Yeah.
Especially by something like the Windows 10 store in its current state.
Yeah.
But also like I don't know, like I think Tim Sweeney kind of is making this case that like backwards compatibility is a must at this point because of how ubiquitous Windows is, and I at some point I don't know, like I feel like I've been waiting for them to just say, and by the way, this next version of Windows will not run your old shit. But it's so much better that you won't care. But not that I think that they could actually do that, but I think that pitch. I don't know. There's a lot of ins and outs. It's a very weird thing. There's kind of no reason for them to not do this.
Yeah.
And even though
they've got nothing to lose at this point.
Even though that'll be frustrating for people that bought an Xbox One.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a weird E3.
Yeah. Sure is.
Yeah. I mean,
dude, if we get through this E3 and they don't reference this stuff again, it's going to be very unfortunate.
Like that's got to be. I mean, that's got to be the thing that they almost announce ahead of the show to get it out of the way, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, get the big news out there for hardware so they can focus on games for this new stuff.
Yeah,
the same way they did when they launched the console the first time. It's like get all the hardware, boring stuff out of the way, so when you get to E3, it's good times and video games and let's shoot some guns, or whatever. But yeah, it's
look at some Matrix-inspired target renders.
Yeah, now you're talking.
Bullet time.
Yeah,
finally. The business of games is big this week. A lot of shit going on, a lot of moving and shaking. The